Book review: My Next Breath, Memoir by Jeremy Renner. Instant New York Times bestseller. Jeremy Renner's My Next Breath isn't just celebrity memoir. It's raw, courageous, and deeply human chronicle of one man's brush with death and the journey back to life. What sets this memoir apart isn't its star-studded backdrop or the adrenaline-fueled opening of Hollywood-worthy disaster. It's the intimacy, the vulnerability, and the genuine spirit of survival that pulses through every page. As Renner recounts the events of his near-fatal accident on New Year's Day 2023 and the grueling months that followed, he offers something far more profound than a behind-the-scenes look at fame. He offers his soul. Plot summary: in My Next Breath, Jeremy Renner delivers raw, powerful, and deeply personal account of the near-fatal snowplow accident that changed his life forever, and the extraordinary recovery that followed. More than just recounting of the trauma that made headlines around the world, Renner's memoir is an intimate meditation on pain, resilience, purpose, and the redemptive power of gratitude. With cinematic clarity and emotional honesty, Renner offers not just the story of survival, but blueprint for how to live with intention, no matter the odds. The memoir opens with the stark, almost surreal moment of the accident itself. New Year's Day 2023. On his Nevada property, Renner was attempting to rescue his nephew's car from snow when his 14,000-pound snowcat ran him over. The brutal details are unflinchingly told: more than 30 broken bones, collapsed lungs, shattered eye socket, and massive internal injuries. But as Renner recounts the blood, the agony, and the slow, horrifying realization that he might die, he also begins to examine something else: the power of conscious breathing and the fight to stay alive. Renner's training as an actor, his focus, discipline, and deep understanding of the body becomes a surprising source of strength. In these early moments of trauma, he turns inward, focusing on each breath, each second, the small act of survival. It is here that the memoir's title takes on meaning. My Next Breath isn't just metaphor, it's literal mantra of persistence, one breath at a time. The memoir moves fluidly between past and present, weaving Renner's rehabilitation with formative chapters of his life. Raised in modest circumstances in Modesto, California, Renner's upbringing was far from glamorous. His childhood was marked by divorce, instability, and feelings of invisibility, factors that fueled his grit and sharpened his instincts. Acting wasn't an obvious path, but it became his way out, vehicle to understand himself and the world. These reflections are less about celebrity and more about identity. Who was Jeremy Renner before fame, and who is he after nearly losing everything? One of the memoir's strengths is its refusal to center celebrity, while Renner touches on his Hollywood roles, from The Hurt Locker and The Town to The Avengers. They serve more as punctuation marks and broader story about humanity. He offers behind-the-scenes glimpses into his career, yes, but always through the lens of growth and vulnerability. His role as Hawkeye, for instance, becomes symbol not just of physical prowess, but of inner focus and purpose. The irony of playing superhero and then facing real-life mortality is not lost on him. Following the accident, Renner's recovery is painstaking. He describes in visceral detail the surgeries, the endless physical therapy sessions, and the psychological toll of being rendered helpless. He could not walk, feed himself, or even sit up unaided. Yet there's a remarkable absence of self-pity in these pages. Renner frames his ordeal as kind of spiritual cruise, an opportunity to unlearn ego and reconnect with gratitude, humility, and love. A recurring theme throughout the memoir is the interdependence of community. Renner credits much of his healing to the people who stood by him: his daughter Ava, his extended family, the medical staff who treated him, and the friends who showed up when he needed them most. In particular, his bond with Ava anchors the emotional heart of the book. He writes movingly of their relationship and of the powerful motivator that fatherhood became in his recovery. Every milestone, being able to stand, to speak clearly, to hug her again, takes on profound meaning. Renner also confronts the mental and emotional impact of trauma. There are nights of fear, moments of intense anger, days when the pain feels unrelenting. He is candid about his struggle with depression, about the frustration of dependency, and the fear that he would never return to his old self. But gradually he reframes his identity. He lets go of the idea of returning and instead embraces evolution. The accident didn't just break his body, it broke open his sense of purpose. Out of suffering came clarity. Life is not about control or performance, but about presence and love. My Next Breath is not a linear story of triumph. Instead, it's cyclical, much like the breath itself. Some days are full of breakthroughs. Others are marked by regression. But Renner never loses sight of the lesson that each breath is choice. To live, to hope, to begin again. His reflections often veer into the philosophical, drawing on Buddhist principles, mindfulness, and the teachings of various spiritual thinkers. But even at its most introspective, the memoir is grounded in the practical. Renner offers insight into the daily rituals that kept him going, gratitude journaling, small goals, connection. While the memoir is intensely personal, it is written with the reader in mind. Renner is not just telling us what happened, he's inviting us into conversation about what it means to face the unthinkable and come through it change. He writes with warmth, humor, and even moments of irreverent wit. His actor's timing intact. There's notable lack of pretension. He never positions himself as guru or victim, just as man who got another chance and wants make it count. The closing chapters are among the most powerful. Renner reflects on the idea that he was rebuilt not only physically but emotionally. He speaks to those facing their own traumas, whether visible or hidden, and offers this central message: you are not alone. Healing is messy, nonlinear, and often lonely. But it is also possible, and it is always worth it. My Next Breath stands as testament to the human spirit's astonishing resilience that is Jeremy Renner's important performance. One not captured on film but lived moment by moment, breath by breath, once heartbreaking and life-affirming. This memoir reminds us all that in our darkest hours we can still find light, and that sometimes the next breath is the most heroic act of all. The man behind the marvel. Before the accident that changed everything, Jeremy Renner was known for his versatility on screen. From his Oscar-nominated performance in The Hurt Locker to the gritty magnetic roles in The Town and American Hustle, Renner carved out reputation as grounded, compelling actor who brought quiet intensity to his roles. And of course, millions know him as Hawkeye. The Marvel Cinematic Universe is precise and often underestimated. Archer, but as My Next Breath makes clear, the Jeremy Renner we thought we knew was only part of the story. This memoir peels back the curtain, revealing a man who has battled far more than box office villains. Raised in working-class family in Modesto, California, Renner grew up with few resources and many responsibilities. The instability of his early home life and his struggle to find direction gave him the resilience that would later serve him well. Not in Hollywood, but on snowy slope in Nevada, when life turned unimaginably dark. The accident, brutality, and survival. Renner's prose is unflinching as he relives the accident that brought him to the brink of death. On New Year's Day 2023, while trying to prevent runaway snowplow from striking his nephew, Renner was pulled under the machine and crushed by its full 14,000-pound weight. The physical damage is described in haunting detail. Over 30 broken bones, collapsed lung, pierced liver, shattered facial bones, and the complete breakdown of his body's autonomy. But it's not just the physical carnage that grips the reader. It's the internal monologue. Moment-to-moment mental struggle to stay awake, to keep breathing, to not surrender. Renner writes about the cold, the weight, the taste of blood, and the strange clarity of knowing he might die there in the snow alone. This passage reads like psychological thriller more than a memoir, and yet its impact is intensified by its reality. And yet, My Next Breath is not a story about an accident, it's about what comes after. Breath by breath, the long road to recovery. What follows the accident is deeply personal and often excruciating account of rehabilitation. After multiple surgeries and tenuous fight for survival in the ICU, Renner enters months-long journey of recovery that tests him in ways far beyond the physical. The memoir does not shy away from the gritty details of this process. Learning to sit up, to eat, to walk, and eventually to rebuild life from the ground up. These passages are some of the most affecting in the book. The vulnerability is staggering, especially coming from man so often cast as soldier or stoic loner. There's no ego here, no false bravado. Instead, Renner shares moments of frustration, grief, shame, and even rage. He writes about having to be sponge-bathed, about the despair of not being able to use the bathroom on his own, about the loneliness that settled in like second skin. Yet, intertwined with the pain is steady undercurrent of gratitude. He writes about the nurses who stayed past their shifts to comfort him, the physical therapist who cheered his smallest victories, the friends who showed up when he was at his worst. Most of all, he writes about his daughter, Ava. It is clear throughout the memoir that fatherhood is the emotional anchor in Renner's life, the thought of being there for her again, of walking, hugging, playing. Themes of identity, purpose, and transformation. Beyond the physical journey, My Next Breath is deep meditation on identity. Renner grapples with the question, if I'm not an actor, if I'm not strong, if I'm not even able to move, then who am I? The accident stripped away his roles, both literal and metaphorical. In their place came reckoning. This inner dialogue reveals Renner's introspective side. Drawing from Buddhist principles, mindfulness, and therapy, he begins to reshape his understanding of self-worth, purpose, and masculinity. The memoir thoughtfully examines what it means to be man in recovery. Not just in terms of healing the body, but also in confronting emotional wounds. Renner acknowledges toxic expectations of toughness and stoicism that often silence pain. By sharing his vulnerability, he not only heals himself but offers mirror to others who may be quietly suffering. There's also an exploration of fame and its hollowness. While grateful for his career and its many blessings, Renner is candid about the ways in which public life can obscure personal truth. The accident brought clarity. Stripped of status, stripped of function, he was forced to ask himself what really mattered. The answer wasn't red carpets or stunts. It was love, connection, and the moment-to-moment act of breathing with intention. Comes his North Star. Silent voice. Renner's writing style is conversational yet poignant, laced with humor, self-awareness, and bursts of lyrical reflection. He writes as though he's speaking directly to the reader. Not as movie star, but as man who has lived through hell and come out the other side changed. This tone gives the book an intimate, confessional quality, like fireside conversation that occasionally slips into something deeper, almost spiritual. He uses breath, this metaphor of the book, not only as physical necessity, but the symbol of presence, of mindfulness, of resilience. Every chapter circles back to this idea that breath is the only thing we can truly control, the only moment we can fully inhabit. It's subtle but effective through line that ties together the book's themes of survival and transformation. A memoir with a message. What elevates My Next Breath beyond personal storytelling is its universality. This is not just book for fans of Jeremy Renner. It is book for anyone who has faced loss, trauma, or despair. It is called to examine what we take for granted. Our bodies, our breath, our relationships. And to reawaken to the fragile, beautiful fact of being alive. Renner doesn't position himself as hero. He's honest about his moments of weakness, his fears, his mistakes. But in that honesty lies the power of this memoir. In showing us his brokenness, he reveals the cracks where the light came in. The final chapters move from reflection to renewal. He begins to walk again. Slowly, he returns to his music, his passion, and finds joy in simply being able to sit and strum guitar. He talks about nature, silence, the magic of sunrise. He doesn't need to return to the person he was before the accident. He's coming someone new, someone perhaps even more complete. Final thoughts. A testament to the human spirit. My Next Breath is one of those rare celebrity memoirs that transcends the genre. Yes, it features famous actor and references well-known films, but its core is achingly universal. It's about surviving the unthinkable, about choosing to live, about redefining success, and about discovering that the most heroic act isn't performed in front of camera, but in a hospital room, on therapy mat, or in the quiets between breaths. This book will resonate with readers not because Jeremy Renner is a star, but because he is so unmistakably human in these pages. His pain is real, his hope is contagious, his resilience is instructive. My Next Breath is love letter to life and rallying cry to anyone struggling with their own mountain to climb in a world filled with noise. Renner's story is a reminder to pause, inhale deeply, and remember that as long as we are breathing, we are becoming. Live to tell the tale. And we're better for it. Highly recommended.